I recently came into possession of a box of the new Digimon Trading Card Game X record set, which has an emphasis on X-Antibody, and I was really struck by two things. One, how gorgeous some of the card art is for these X-Antibody Digimon, and two, how there were several X-Antibody Digimon that I totally missed. I had no idea were out there. So today, we're going through not all of the over 150 X-Antibody Digimon that exist, but the X-Antibody forms of Digimon that you and I would best recognize as partners from the main anime series. The X-Antibody has been an element of some but not all Digimon media and is most common in mobile games like Digimon Re-Arise and the Digimon Trading Card Game. They are often reimaginings of Digimon you know and love, decked out versions almost like Prime Warframes. I find that for Ultimates and Megas, they tend to look more edgy, a little more Gunpla model kit like, and for the rookies and younger Digimon, they look a little more like Neopets to me sometimes. Whether you love or hate the look of X-Antibody Digimon, let's dive in and look at over 50 X-Antibody forms of some of the most famous Digimon partners. Agumon X and Black Agumon X. I really like that they have the stripes on the backs and arms here. It's kind of like a transition to Greymon. Speaking of Greymon, we have Greymon X with more defined horns matching the claws. Metal Greymon X and Metal Greymon X Virus are very interesting because they definitely inspired Metal Greymon Alteros mode from Digimon Adventure 2020. And War Greymon X as well is fantastic with the Dramon Destroyers. I wish that somehow they managed to fit this into Adventure 2020. Rise Greymon isn't all too different from the original form, but still looking great. Black War Greymon X is way more mechanical than the usual Black War Greymon, sharing those Dramon Destroyer kind of talons with War Greymon X. Gabumon X is super interesting with way longer claws. I'm really intrigued by Garurumon X that feels like a completely different character. It almost feels like it comes from outside of the franchise. Where Garurumon X, similar to Metal Greymon X, definitely inspired Where Garurumon Sagittarius mode with the wings. Metal Garurumon X is really putting the metal into Garurumon X, very mechanical, almost tank-like. And Omegamon X is yet another incredible Omegamon form. This is a character that just can't lose. Every time they introduce a variant, it looks fantastic. With, I guess, the exception of Omegamon. Just a humble Omegamon here. They gave him this ridiculous kind of Lego-looking form. Tokomon X is very cute, definitely less scary than the standard Tokomon when it shows its teeth. Pegasusmon X is really cool as well. I just wish there was card art for this guy or that it appeared in Adventure 2020 somehow. Now, I'm going to show you Clavis Angemon, who is technically not an X-Antibody form of Angemon. It's its own Digimon, but since it shares the Angemon name, I thought this could potentially be the equivalent of an Angemon X. Godramon X is the first, in my opinion, that doesn't differ too greatly from the standard other than what looks like chest armor, metal chest armor on the front there. We also have Hercules Kabuterimon, who is much more, I guess I would say, robo looking. His claws almost remind me of two kind of claw games like the ones you find in Tokyo in arcades. Garudamon X is, I think, a personal favorite of mine, definitely continuing the original Garudamon's sort of indigenous inspiration. And then there's Hoomon X, who has never been my favorite mega of the original adventure group, but I think this is definitely even more radiant. Agumon X, really looking like a Neopet like I mentioned in the intro. Plesiomon X, for those who don't know, this is an alternate evolution line. When Goemon could become Vikemon, it could also become a Plesiomon. Palmon X is one of the more strange rookie forms that really takes a departure by giving her almost a cape and like an extra layer of the hair on top. Togemon X is cool as well because you definitely see some Ponchomon in there in the same way that Alteros and Sagittarius were inspired by the X-Antibody. Ponchomon already existed, but definitely is looking like Togemon X. Lilymon X is not too different from the standard Lilymon, although it definitely sports more of a regal, looks like it almost has a tiara that the original Lilymon does not. And Rosemon X, also not too terribly different other than the wrappings around her legs. Here with the Rosemon X, this is another instance where I really wish that they got implemented into the trading card game just so we could get some new Rosemon X art. There is Salomon X and Gatomon X2, who actually inspired the video because these were the first two I opened in the new X record set. I think Nefertimon X is one of the best uses of an X-Antibody Digimon. Just a great reimagining, almost feels like Beast Wars or Beasties in Canada. Angelwoman X is one of the largest leaps, I would say, in terms of an X-Antibody Digimon. Usually they look fairly similar with a few additions. This looks like a different Digimon, like Lovely Angemon. Holydramon X isn't looking too much different from the standard form, although I will say the card is gorgeous. Ophanimon X and Ophanimon Fall Down X are super cool versions of Ophanimon. I think the takeaway here is that Gatomon / Tailmon really got the star treatment when it came to the X-Antibody redesigns. The entire line design is fantastic. Now that we're out of the adventure woods, let's take a break so I can tell you a bit about the sponsor of today's video, the ever supportive Bai, who has been with the channel since Digimon Ghost Game episode 2. Maybe you, like me, want cool Japan exclusive anime merch that you saw online, like Digimon V-Pets or figures, but you don't live in Japan. Bai's whole thing is that they're an online shopping proxy service that lets you order things from major Japanese stores like Amazon JP and Rakuten through them. Essentially, you tell them what you want, they order it in Japan on your behalf and send it to you wherever you live on planet Earth. I've used them before when it came to buying DIM cards for my Vital Bracelet Digivice as an example, and it was ridiculously easy and shockingly fast to get something from Japan to Canada. And if you decide to sign up today and use the link in the description of this video, you're going to get a 2,000 yen coupon to use on your first Bai purchase. For getting your hands on Japanese exclusive goodies, Bai is definitely the way to go. Alright, now back to the X-Antibody countdown. Magnamon X has always been a favorite of mine. The standard Magnamon has always been a favorite, but this is just elevated to the next level. Same is true for Ulforce Vidramon. Both of these characters definitely have that model kit vibe that I mentioned in the opening of this video, and I want these characters on my desk. Agumon X looks a little thinner and a little more nimble, not too terribly different, but an interesting take on the character. I think the same is true for Growlmon X. It's not a giant leap forward from Growlmon base form, but I love this card art a lot. And War Growlmon X is definitely doing the thing that War Greymon X and many other X-Antibody do, of looking like a great model kit. Like, I definitely want to build this Gundam. The same is true for Gallantmon X, who has two incredible cards. I couldn't choose just one for him. And there's also Medieval Gallantmon, who is not technically an X-Antibody form, but a Digimon who is just inherently an X. Great reinterpretation of the character. Lopmon X is super cute. The ears have been extended, and you'll see shortly that she definitely matches Terriermon X. And then she has two X Megas, Cherubimon Good and Cherubimon Evil. It's cool to see these characters look a little more digital than the original Cherubimon, like the kind of emissive blue and red on the legs. Terriermon X, like I said, a great companion for Lopmon X. Super cute, very Neopetsy, if I do say so myself. And Rapidmon X2 is a great partner for Magnamon X if you're thinking about the Digimon movie, the third part. I love this redesign. It makes me want to see more from the Terriermon line. Renamon X is super interesting, but could really use trading card game art because I'm having a bit of a hard time really making out what is actually in this design. The art we have is pretty small and a little busy. Sakuyamon X also exists and is probably one of my top 10 of the X-Antibody Digimon. Great reimagining of the character. Dobromon X is even more creepy and fierce looking than the original Dobromon, but otherwise not drastically different. The same can't be said for Cyberdramon X, who is a huge change up from Cyberdramon. Very creepy, almost sort of a villainous Digimon look going on here. This looks like it could be the villain of a new series. Justimon X continues with Justimon's kind of Super Sentai Power Rangers influence, only this looks like it's borrowing from a different season of Super Sentai. Rounding out the Tamers partners, so Leomon X is a huge departure from original Leomon. I don't think Jerry would recognize this guy here. He's got a huge sword and a cape, and he just looks like a character out of a fantasy novel that I definitely want to check out. Impmon X is cool because he looks like he could possibly be a champion form for the original Impmon, like how we just skipped to Mega. It kind of reminds me of like Jellymon to Tesla Jellymon. He would only be a little bit bigger than Impmon, but he looks like a transitional Digimon with the scarf and the eye patch. And then there's Beelzemon X. It's hard to top the original Beelzemon because it's such a great design, but I really appreciate them reimagining the color palette with the blue and the red. Now I'm throwing on Caramon X and Diaboromon X here because let's just go with the canon of the English movie where Caramon and Diaboromon are technically the result of Willis's tampering online. So by that logic, you could consider them kind of Digimon partners in the English canon of Digimon. Caramon X is one of the creepier Digimon out there, especially with all the eyes, and I think Diaboromon X is one of the cooler villainous X-Antibody Digimon, not too over the top. I love this concept art we got back in 2018. And last but not least, I want to show you Omni Shoutmon X. He looks cool as hell, and I love that Magnamon is featured in his card as well. So there you go, that's all of our X-Antibody partner Digimon, some having just stunning card art. It really makes me want the card game to continue, if only so that we get new art for these characters, because so much of the Digimon reference art that's online is these tiny image files from a decade ago. Do you have a favorite X-Antibody, and do you love or hate the style of X-Antibody Digimon? Let me know for sure, because I know it's a bit controversial among the community. I sprinkled some card opening footage throughout this video, and I'm gonna actually go ahead and put up the card video unboxing on my second channel, the Digino02, in a couple days. I'll do like a director's commentary kind of stuff where I talk over the footage, because I sort of reacted to it, but I found it wasn't very interesting. You know, I'm not a reaction guy. What I'll do is try to not only comment on the cards that I opened, but also answer some of your questions from this video. So if you had questions for me, ask them in the comments below, and I'll try to answer you in the card opening Q&A video that's coming coming to the Digino 02 in the next couple of days. Oh, and I got the box of cards from Mecha Japan, so thank you for that. It's not an official sponsorship or anything, but they did tell me that they may have a special promo for all of you in the Digino 02 video. So if you're a card collector, you want to use Mecha Japan, look forward to that video. I'll probably have a deal for you guys there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.